All right, so overcoming self-destructive habits and perceptions to find power. So we're going to dig in. We've already talked in the past about Rat Park and the adult study, or a study of human development, adult study of human development by Harvard, the Harvard study, the big Harvard study. We've discussed that. So we're going to move into a little different dimension here today. And we're going to take a look at some primatologist data and in the study of animals, right? So point number one up at the top above the picture, you have to have enough power to make your life stable. If you don't have enough power to protect yourself, your family, or your home, you're going to suffer emotionally with insecurity and anxiety, and you may suffer physically, could be the end result of that. Yes, even animals, in cases, have influence, right? And so we're going to dig into that a little bit today. So what I did here on the right is just the Merriam dictionary definition of power as it pertains to the power that we're referring to. Because there's lots of different types of power. There's, the power that goes through your electrical wires when you flip the switch, and that's not really what we're talking about here today. So let's look at some of these definitions here. One, the ability to do something or act in a particular way, especially as a faculty or quality. Faculty in this case meaning an inherent mental or physical power. So it's the ability to do something or act in a certain way. That's one definition of power. Two, legal or official authority, capacity or right is another form of power. Possession of control, authority, or influence is another form of power. Mental or moral efficacy. That's a very interesting one. Moral efficacy, how about that? Political control or influence, the time rate at which work is done or energy is emitted or transferred, and then to give impetus. Impetus meaning the force or energy with which a body moves, the force that makes something happen, Looks like that might have been a typo. So that's the type of power that we're talking about here today. We've looked at Rat Park. We have looked at the study of human study of adult development from Harvard. So let's look at the chimpanzee and rat studies that we have here. So, and guys, there are lots and lots and lots of animal studies out there, particularly with mammals, regarding this stuff. Like it's well known that elephants mourn their dead and things of that nature. So if you care to investigate this, there's plenty of public information for you to go out there and dig in even further than what we're digging into here today. So modern evolutionary biologists believe that our first pre-human ancestor, Homo erectus, separated from chimpanzees 6 million years ago. As a result, chimps are often studied to identify more complex but obscure social behaviors and human hierarchies. Hierarchy is a system or organization in which people or groups are ranked one above the other according to status or authority. So for the purposes of human hierarchies, even if you don't believe evolutionary biologists or the whole theory of evolution, you can look back at the 5,000, 10,000 years of archaeological and records and evidence that we have for societies that have existed for that amount of time, which we can put a rubber stamp on as fact because we have evidence covering those periods, right? So even if you don't want to go back millions of years, right? And so what we find ourselves in the middle of is this super complex organism that is society, that is the social order of things. Super complex, with all kinds of different dimensions and moving parts, and we're trying to figure out how to navigate this that would be most advantageous for us and for our families, for our kids, etc. Right? Moving on here. So if this theory is correct, then the ancestors of chimps, going back 350 million years, can also be studied for social and hierarchical characteristics to discover approximately how long our ancestral lineage has been engaged in and has evolved to exist within the complexities and cooperations of a social order. So what all that's saying is that, 350 million years for chimps But actually, if you go back prior to the chimp lineage, that there are social orders that existed within our lineage, our theoretical lineage, for even more than that, even longer than 350 million years. These social ethics and morals have existed in some form or another within society. So if that's true, then you can't ignore them. If it's true, you can't ignore them. And if it's true, your philosophy on life, if it does not coincide with this, is stupid. You guys with me?
Yes.
If evolutionary theory is true in that for millions of years, our social organism has been evolving and co-signing and endorsing and supporting and bolstering and uplifting the things that are good, that make for a better society and the betterment of all mankind, versus the things that are bad, that make for a worse society and a worse mankind. I mean, you see now whistleblowers, even on the left, that are blowing the whistles on the left, right? Like the Democratic Party is splintering right now. You got the woke left, and everybody's saying, those guys are going to destroy everything. Those guys, you're right? And so there's a splintering that's happening right now on the left. That is a social response to things that are wrong. It's what it is. It's a social response to things that are wrong. And so we have evolved in this very complex system, be it 350 million years or the 10,000 years that we are absolutely aware of. We have evolved into this complex system that's designed to work a particular way because there have been tests and experiments and iterations that have been ran for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. And it's in your bones, man, whether you like it or not. You know, you can have any kind of a philosophy you want to, but if it's a bullshit philosophy and it doesn't coincide with truth, then it's not going to work for you. It's not going to work. It's not going to work, right? You guys with me so far?
Yes.
Everybody here?
Yes.
Yep. Here? There? All right. All right, so let's keep moving. All right, so baby chimps, they watch and imitate their parents and the alphas, not only by play fighting for physical dominance, but which is a characteristic of chimps, but also social status through connection with others and the influence that produces. Females also have a hierarchy within chimpanzee groups. There are alpha females. Led by the alpha female, though overall an alpha male will almost always outrank an alpha female. Almost always. There are cases where an alpha female will outrank an alpha male. How does that happen? Well, the alpha female isn't as likely to obtain rule through aggression as would a male. Us males are wired to be violent assholes. I'm well aware of that. You should be too. And violence as a male would be, but instead through relationships and personality. Right, so what they do, they have you can call it an emotional intelligence, and they garner their authority and the support of the troop through influence and through connection and through relationships and through being trusted, and over time, gaining trust and authority in that way. Right, if you're just a single female, but the whole damn troop loves you and they hate the alpha male, believe me, if the alpha male rises to the top of the food chain through tyranny, which is one of the two basic ways of gaining power, tyranny and aggression versus influence, right? Those are the two main facets of power. It's either tyranny, aggression, or influence, right? So if you have an alpha male that rises, and there's a guy named Fred Stawall that's done plenty of work on, he's a primatologist, done plenty of work on chimpanzees that has verified this, that if an alpha male rises to the top through primarily tyranny and aggression, which they do in some cases, they have a very unstable troop, and it's usually very short-lived. Because what happens is the adolescents or the pre or young adult males that have formed bonds with each other, they wait until he eats some fucking grapes that are that have been fermenting, and he's a little off, he's slipping, he's half-stepping that day, and they tear the shit out of him. I mean, chimps are extremely aggressive. You guys ever seen a chimp attack? They'll rip your fucking face off. And so that's what they do. This guy has got to go. That's what they do, right? Just like the Italian mafia, right? This guy's got to go. He's fucking everything up, he's got to go, right? That's what happens in chimpanzee troops as well. So, so what that would tell you is that even in chimpanzee troops, there are social hierarchies and ethics. An ethic is you have to treat these people well to be respected. That's an ethic. It's a moral. It's a morality. It's an animal form of morality, right? And you guys know you're just a bunch of animals, right? Just kidding. That's a joke. All right. So moving right along. All right. So there have also been studies with rats. There's a guy by the name of Jaak Panksepp that has studied rats. In fact, this was the first guy that found that rats giggle. Did you guys know that rats giggle? Rats giggle. You can't hear their giggle because your human ears can't hear those super high, ultrasonic sounds, but they have microphones that actually can hear the rats giggle. And when they tickle them, they giggle. Not only that, but rats play. They actually play with each other, just like baby chimps do. And the baby chimps are imitating either dominance or influence with the relationships in their playing. Well, rats play with each other too. And Jaak Panksepp found that when rats play with each other, if there's a larger rat, I got this from Jordan Peterson, if there's a larger rat that's playing with a smaller rat that has the ability to physically dominate the smaller rat, if he does not allow the smaller rat to win a wrestling match some small percentage of the time, I don't remember what the percentage was, call it 20-30% of the time, the younger rat stops playing with him because he wants to win sometimes. There's got to be something in it for him. He doesn't want to just get his ass kicked every single time, right? There's no real payoff for him in that. And so even rats have developed an ethic, right? And so that's what you're in the middle of. Whether you realize it or not, you're in a society that is going to reward or penalize you based on your function within the society, right? And I mean, we can look at some of the most powerful tyrants in the world. We can look at Putin right now. You guys think Putin is winning or losing right now?
Depends on what end are you in. Because I mean, it appears to like he's losing, but in reality he's not. It appears like he's losing, but he's not.
All right. Okay. Well, I mean, we're still very, very early in this.
Right, of course.
But he hasn't sustained any ground from Ukraine except for just that little tiny bit that I visited back in 2001 in the Donbass region,
right.
The Lugansk area.
Right.
That's the only place he's been able to sustain.
Right. He keeps going in and out. So apparently,
I can tell you that Putin is going to lose really, really bad, really, really bad. The whole West has cut him off from the SWIFT financial system.
I've seen that.
And they are, right now, they still have a dependency, an oil dependency on him, which is being jeopardized. But he cannot sustain this. Just financially, manpower-wise, there's just no way he can continue this amount of resources. And even if he did, and he did win, and he took Ukraine, the suffering that's going to be on his regime is going to come for the next 10 or 20 years. So it's not done until it's done. Keep watching, right? And that's a really important point. So that things happen over very long spans of time. If you see somebody that has success for a year or 2 years, that doesn't tell you shit about what it's going to be 20 years from now. So, you might build a little empire for yourself that stands well today, but where are you going to be in 10 years, in 20 years, in 40 years, in 50 years, right? So, all right, so moving right along. So what are women's roles? So we know that, that the left, claims that it's all by dominance and power, and it's all men, and the whole system was built on, men dominance and power. What role do women play? If not being the hierarchical alpha, right? What role do you think women play in deciding if you are going to be powerful? Do you think they play a role at all? Yep. Do women make us powerful? Mm-hmm. Absolutely they do. Absolutely they do. In fact, it could be argued, and I really haven't investigated this a whole lot, but it could be argued that women have the most power long term because of sexual selection, right? So what that means is that if you're an idiot And you can't find a good woman, and a good woman is better than a bad woman, because a bad woman will destroy your family and destroy your kids, and then, once your kids self-destruct, you're gone. You and your seed are gone. Bye-bye. You're here no more. Your chance is over. Your chain is broken, right? But a good woman, a powerful woman, can support and endorse you and make your family and your stability so that it is unshakable. Unshakable. And they do that, unless, you're like Russia and Ukraine just raping and pillaging, they do that through sexual selection, right? That's how they do it. And it's no secret that it's a lot easier for a woman to get a man than it is a man to get a woman, generally speaking. Women have a lot more at stake. They have a lot more at stake. If a woman gets pregnant, she's going to be pregnant for 9 months. Assuming that everything works out right. And then she's got this 18-year obligation. A guy doesn't necessarily have to have that, right? So it stands to reason for good biological and evolutionary reasons that a woman would be very picky about the person that she's with, because she needs to be sure that this guy is the right guy. He's going to stick around. He's going to help out. Babies are massively labor intensive, massively labor intensive. You don't get much sleep, and so yes, they do. Women play a major role in social hierarchy. So here may be your question, Aaron. What if I'm a retard and I don't know how to cooperate? I don't know how to navigate this social order in some sort of a meaningful, productive way and bring enough value to the table. What do I do? Well, it just so happens that used to be me. And so I've got some advice for you. So for you new folks, you guys probably don't know much about my story. I grew up in Section 8 housing, on the welfare system, doing drugs at the age of 11, high school dropout in the 10th grade, smoking crack by the time I was 17, shooting coke with dirty needles by the time I was 20, on and on it goes. Removed from the home at the age of 12. So I had a really fucked up childhood. And there was a major, fast forward to, 2003, I owned 8 units and five properties, a mortgage company, and was being asked by one of the largest home builders in the country to come and open 2 mortgage offices for them in North and South Carolina, which I did, offering me about $250,000 per year. So how do you go from the reject from the funny farm to a guy that produces some success in his life? Well, I had to have a paradigm shift, and that's why I printed out the paradigm shift for you. If you have come from anywhere like that, like what I just described, and you have gone anywhere in your life, you have already had some paradigm shifts without even realizing it, maybe. We're not going to go over it right now. This is from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. This paradigm shift here, it's a great explanation and narration of a paradigm shift and what happens. But basically, it's that your worldview completely changes from what it was before. You had one worldview, and some new information comes in that produces a revelation that completely changes your worldview. This happens oftentimes in religions. This is religious conversion. It's the same thing. Religious conversion is a paradigm shift. It's a paradigm shift, right? And it's so effective that all the 12-step recovery programs that are out there, AA, NA, CA, SA, Overeaters Anonymous, on and on it goes, that's what they produce. That's what they attempt to produce. They're working to produce a paradigm shift. That's what it is. Spiritual experience is a paradigm shift. That's what they're working to produce. Because if you're killing yourself and your pathology is such that you are destroying the things around you, destroying yourself like I was with drugs, destroying the lives of the people that you touch, and you can't be helpful, you're not going to do very well in society. And so to counter that, they found that actually from the Oxford Group and from biblical principles, that just by using biblical principles in this formatted way, these 12 steps, they can produce a spiritual experience for the people that engage in it. And so that's what they're working for. So there are a couple of different types of spiritual experience. So we'll go over that just really quickly. So the term spiritual experience and spiritual awakening are used many times in this book. This is from AA, by the way, which upon careful reading shows that the personality change sufficient to bring about recovery from alcoholism has manifested itself among us in many different forms. Yes, it's true that our first printing gave many readers the impression that these personality changes or religious experiences must be in the nature of sudden and spectacular upheavals. Happily for everyone, this conclusion is erroneous. That means it's wrong, it's false. In the few chapters, a number of the sudden revolutionary changes are described. Though it was not our intention to create such an impression, many alcoholics have nevertheless concluded that in order to recover, they must acquire an immediate and overwhelming God consciousness, followed at once by a vast change in feeling and outlook. Among a rapidly growing membership of thousands of alcoholics, now millions and millions, this was written back in the 40s, by the way, though frequent, are by no means the rule. Most of our experiences are what psychologist William James calls the educational variety because they develop slowly over a period of time. Quite often, friends of the newcomer are aware of the differences long before he is himself. He finally realizes that he has undergone a profound alteration in his reaction to life, that such a change could hardly have been brought on by himself alone. What often takes place in a few months could hardly be accomplished by years of self-discipline. With few exceptions, our members find that they have tapped an unsuspected inner resource which they presently identify with their own conception of a power greater than themselves. Most of us think this awareness of a power greater than ourselves is the essence of spiritual experience. Our more religious members call it God consciousness. Most emphatically, we wish to say that any alcoholic capable of honestly facing his problems in the light of our experience can recover, provided he does not close his mind to all spiritual principles. He can only be defeated by an attitude of intolerance or belligerent denial. We find that no one need have difficulty with spirituality in the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery, but these are indispensable. That while people do have, the wind blowing through you, mountaintop experiences, which I have experienced to some degree myself, they also have, more often, in fact, I would say, they have what's known as the educational variety. What is the educational variety? Well, it's where you educate yourself on spiritual principles, and you intentionally direct your mind to those things that would make you more healthy. You focus on the things that, having fucking food, and a roof over your head, and transportation, and being gainfully employed, and having family members that you love, and meaningful relationships, and they're healthy. They're not limping around or have cancer or whatever. Like all these things that we should be actively pursuing gratitude about, being grateful for those things, and then focusing yourself towards the things that you want to move towards, strategically and goal-oriented things, right? So doing that intentionally. So a lot of people will create meditation time, like in the morning. They get up and have a prayer and meditation time. Maybe they read some scriptures. Maybe they read, a reflections from a recovery book or something like that. So what they are doing is they are producing a spiritual experience that will give them a paradigm shift ultimately. Slowly, in this case, the educational variety, but nevertheless, a paradigm shift. So if you are damaging yourself, or you know somebody that is, they're only going to change when they're able to accomplish this, when they're able to do this, right? If their ideas, the same shit, like, I got a brother that I don't even know how long he's been in prison now. I think he's probably up to 15, 16 years, and he's still got all the angles to shoot, man. He's got all the ideas. He doesn't want to hear anything from anybody else. It's death. It's a death sentence, guys. That's a death sentence. So, and there's nothing you can do for folks that are in that boat. They have to be in a position of open-mindedness and willingness to try some new stuff. All right? Have a great day. Thank you, guys.